Yo, what is up, y'all? It's Cone back here again today with another video. Now, I know I haven't posted for about a week, but if you saw my community post or watched my video, the last one I uploaded like 5 days ago about the Sixers, you probably know that I got my wisdom teeth out a week ago yesterday, so I was recovering, wasn't really able to talk, and even now my jaw's still kind of stiff, so if my voice sounds weird, there's more cuts than usual. That is why. Appreciate y'all sticking with me through that recovery period. Also, the lighting might look weird. One of my ring lights broke somehow in the week I wasn't recording. Don't know how that happened, but somehow it did, so I gotta get a new one. So I apologize if the lighting does look weird. But all that to the side, today we're here to talk about the Boston Celtics, who, over the course of that week that I was out of commission, according to Shams, reportedly he dropped the news that they offered Jaylen Brown for Kevin Durant, which is huge. Now, there is no deal imminent. The Celtics are clearly a player in this, but apparently that trade offer was earlier in the month, so it's nothing, pressing. It's not like the Celtics are on the verge of trading for Kevin Durant, but the fact that they offered up Jaylen Brown is huge news. I think it says a lot. It shows two things. One, the Celtics aren't satisfied with where they are, and two, this core of Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum that just went to the finals, there's a chance they break that up if the right deal is available. But at the same time, while you might think, Kevin Durant and the Celtics, that's a team that could win a championship, sure. But do you want to break up the duo of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, who reportedly the Nets also want in a deal? There's a lot of people questioning whether the Celtics should be willing to give all that up for Kevin Durant, as great as he is. So I want to talk about both sides of the argument and give my take on whether or not the Celtics should trade for Kevin Durant. I asked y'all on Twitter, you guys were pretty split as well, so let's go ahead and talk about it real quick. According to Shams' article, the Celtics offer for Kevin Durant was Jaylen Brown, Derek White, and some picks for KD, which, if I'm the Celtics and the Nets say sure to that, I'm 100% taking that deal every single time. I know I'm a neutral fan. I'm sure there are some Celtics fans out there that are going to call me crazy because I'm sure they love Jaylen Brown, but I think it just makes sense. You upgrade Jaylen Brown to Kevin Durant, and sure, you have to give up a guy like Derek White, who was really solid after you got him at the trade deadline, but you're a deep team. You'll be perfectly fine. There's still guard options out there in free agency like Dennis Schroeder, Eric Bledsoe, Jeremy Lamb, who won't quite give you what Derek White did maybe, but are still decent enough options. You're a deep team. You'll be fine if you give up Derek White. So sure, I would make that 100% of the time if I'm the Boston Celtics. Problem comes around when you look at the counteroffer that the Nets sent back to them, because of course they said no to that. They asked for Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Derek White, as well as picks for KD. It's a lot to give up. Jaylen Brown, of course, is still super young. He was just many games in the finals your best player. I'm not saying he's better than Tatum, but there are a lot of games in the finals where he was their best player. He was super impactful. When Jason Tatum went cold, Jaylen Brown stepped up, as well as vice versa. He's great defensively, and he continues to improve. He's gotten better every single year of his career. So do you really want to break up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum? Then you look at Marcus Smart, who just won Defensive Player of the Year, was one of the biggest reasons why you had that huge turnaround, one of the reasons why you were the best defense we've seen in a few seasons. He really is the heart and soul of that Celtics team. Do you want to give him up, as well as a player in Derek White who was solid, like I said, as well as picks? For me, the picks really aren't that much of a problem. If I'm the Boston Celtics, I'm a championship caliber team right now, and I'm even only more of one if I had Kevin Durant. If you give up picks, who cares if you go out and win a championship? You still have all your picks. It's not like they're a team that is running low or anything like that. They'd be perfectly fine giving up draft picks, so I'm not really worried about that. Now, also, to make the contracts work, the Nets would have to throw in either Seth Curry or Joe Harris in this exact trade scenario, who are two people that can help you kind of bolster the depth that you lose by trading 3 players for 1. It's now a 3-for-2 deal, and you could run out a starting lineup of Brogdon, Joe Harris, or Seth Curry, Jason Tatum, Kevin Durant, and Robert Williams. That is an incredible starting 5. Or if you just want to say screw it and go all tall guys, you could do Seth Curry or Joe Harris at the 1, Tatum at the 2, Durant at the 3, and then Horford and Rob in the front court. Either way, you still have Gallinari off the bench, Peyton Pritchard, Grant Williams, and one of Al Horford or Malcolm Brogdon. You are a really good team 9 deep. Regardless if you trade 3 for 2, you're going to be perfectly fine. So the question is, why wouldn't they trade for KD? He is a top 2 player in the league, top 3 player in the league, whatever, one of the best players in the league. And they had a problem in the NBA Finals and the playoffs as a whole, where their offense got kind of stagnant. We've seen it with the Celtics for years, where their offense can kind of go cold. They just isolate here and there, and there are a few better players in the history of the league in terms of we need a bucket, go get us one, than Kevin Durant. So let's go ahead and talk about some of the pros and cons. Like I said, KD immediately makes this team better, especially on the offensive end. If you need someone to get you a bucket, KD's going to do that. Against the Warriors, who were an incredible defensive team, there were many times where they got kind of stagnant. Their role players stopped hitting threes. Jason Tatum went cold. There was rumors that he was dealing with an injury, or that might have been confirmed, I forget. Either way, Tatum wasn't 100%, as most players aren't by that time in the season. It just kind of felt like they needed more of an offensive punch, and they did out a guy in Brogdon, who is a 40% three-point shooter and is going to give them some offense. But it's Kevin Durant. You add Kevin Durant, your offense is immediately way, way better. Also, other teams around you improved. The Celtics, they added Malcolm Brogdon, who is a really solid piece, and I would say right now, they're at worst the second favorite in the Eastern Conference. I would say they're probably the favorite to win the East at this point. They just went to the finals. They got better. Huge pickup in Malcolm Brogdon as well as Gallinari. They did improve, but also other teams did too. And the Sixers got a decent bit better. The Milwaukee Bucks got better. The Heat, I would say, were probably the only top team that got a little bit worse. You also have teams in the East outside of those top 3 or 4, like the Toronto Raptors, who are going to keep getting better. The Cleveland Cavaliers, if they're healthy, are going to keep getting better as a young team. The Atlanta Hawks added DeJounte Murray. The Wizards getting Bradley Beal back. They'll be at least a decent team. The Chicago Bulls, they're a team that when Lonzo Ball gets back, they're going to be better as well. It is a really solid conference. So, even though you're getting better, with some pickups here and there, teams around you are getting better too. And they did have a lot break their way over the course of the playoffs. I'm not saying they got lucky. Not at all. Absolutely not. They deserve to be there. But they did go up against a Bucks team that was without Chris Middleton, and that series did go 7. Jimmy Butler, I believe, missed a game in the Heat series. Even if he didn't miss a game, he was kind of dealing with an injury. They had some things break their way. I still do think they deserve to be in the finals, and they could 100% get back there. But you don't want to kind of get stagnant. You want to keep improving, and they did, but Kevin Durant is such a massive piece to this team that maybe you just go out and make that deal. Additionally, there's no guarantee that you make the finals again. Now, even if you add KD, there's no guarantee, but a lot of Celtics fans' argument for keeping Jaylen Brown is the fact that we have this much longer window, and that is something that would happen. Their window would shorten a lot with KD, who's 34, as opposed to Jaylen Brown, who I believe is like 24, 25 years old. Your title window does shorten a lot, but it also opens up a lot more right now. With Jaylen Brown, there's no guarantee you make the finals again. We've seen so many young teams in the past. As a Thunder fan, I can attest to that they went to the finals and everyone's like, oh, they'll be back. And I do think these Celtics will be back at some point, even if they don't trade for KD, but there are absolutely no guarantees in the NBA. Going out and getting Kevin Durant maximizes your opportunity to win a championship right now and capitalize. Plus, you kind of just scorn Jaylen Brown, who's going to be a free agent very, very soon. He tweeted out after this rumor came out, SMH, which indicates that he's not happy, as I'm sure no player would be after going to the finals and then being in trade rumors. I'm sure he gets it. Like, it's Kevin Durant. You have to kind of understand. But he's been in trade rumors almost his whole career, whether it was going back to the days of Anthony Davis requesting a trade, Paul George. Jaylen Brown has always been at the centerpiece because he is that good. And also, the Celtics, of course, just don't want to give up Jason Tatum. Jaylen could leave. So if you get Kevin Durant, he's on a 4-year deal, you have him for that contract. There's a chance that Jaylen Brown looks at this and says, I don't think they appreciate me enough. Let me go try and run my own thing, and goes ahead and leaves. It's a real possibility. So those are some reasons why they should go ahead and trade for Durant. Now let's talk about the reasons why they should just hold on to what they have. While the offense does get better with a KD trade, the defense gets worse. You give up Jaylen Brown and Marcus Smart, two really good defenders. Like I said, Marcus Smart, he really was the defensive leader of that team. Of course, winning Defensive Player of the Year. Jaylen Brown's really solid on that end as well. KD's not terrible defensively, but he is definitely regressing a bit. So your defense immediately gets worse, even if your offense does get better. Like I said, you also shorten your title window. With Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, who are both in their early 20s, you've got like 10 years at this point to win a title if the two of them stay and you keep making moves to keep the talent around them. You've got a really long title window. So while you maximize your opportunity now, you also shorten that window greatly. There's also questions of chemistry and health. KD has dealt with a lot of injuries recently. He hasn't played more than 60 games very often as of late. Now, whether that's load management, but also some injuries, who knows? Who's to say KD's body doesn't continue breaking down? He continues to have injuries. He continues to only play like 50, 60 games. And then in the playoffs, who knows? Now, he's been relatively healthy in the playoffs these last 2 seasons. But what if, you're going to the NBA Finals and KD finally just suffers an injury? He is 34 years old and he has a really kind of lanky frame. There's a good chance he's going to get hurt again. So do you want to risk that? Like I said, you also have chemistry issues. You give up Marcus Smart, Jaylen Brown, 2 guys who have been here for 5, 6 seasons. They've really grown together as this core, and that's something that's so cool about the Celtics. Smart, Tatum, and Brown have been this trio that have been together since, Tatum got drafted. Since Jaylen Brown got drafted, him and Marcus Smart have been here together. So they've really grown together as this core, and I do think that was part of the reason why they made the finals. So do you give up that chemistry? Do you go ahead and throw KD into this team where now, they gave up Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown? Could that rub some players the wrong way? They're like, man, we just made the finals. Why did we go and make this deal? I'm sure they'd ask Tatum about it, but are they going to ask the other guys who are probably going to be upset that they lose those teammates that they've really grown and made this amazing run with over the second half of this past season? That brings me to the point, why mess up a good thing? You just went to the finals. Why make this drastic move, giving up Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, picks? Why would you do that? There's a lot to be said about continuity in this league. Now, we do see it plenty of times, like the Los Angeles Lakers. They traded for Anthony Davis, which was a huge move. They traded their whole young core to put him alongside LeBron James, and they went out and won a championship. We do see teams that make those huge moves. Now, also, the Lakers sucked the year before, which is very different than the Celtics making a title run, but we have seen moves where superstars go ahead and get added to teams, and they go ahead and win. We saw with the Toronto Raptors is probably the best example. They came up short a few years in a row against LeBron James in the East. They went ahead and traded for Kawhi Leonard. Of course, LeBron also left, coincidentally, in that offseason too, but then they went ahead, traded for a superstar in Kawhi, giving up a beloved player in DeMar DeRozan, who's going to get his jersey retired in Toronto at some point down the line after he retires, and they won a championship. So they gave up continuity with DeMar DeRozan, but they brought in a superstar and they won a championship. So we have seen it work before, but there's also examples where it doesn't work. We've seen many teams have these disasters where, they're like, oh my God, is this a super team? We even just saw it with the Brooklyn Nets, who had that really fun team. They had like D'Lo, Karis LeVert, Spencer Dinwiddie, guys dancing on the bench, Jarrett Allen, where they went ahead and they lost to the Sixers in the first round, but it was a really solid young up-and-coming team. Now, would that team have ever won a championship? Probably not. I don't think they would have unless they made a big move. But they went ahead, added KD, added Kyrie Irving, and added James Harden, and they never ended up winning anything. There were some Nets fans that are like, why did we give up all of our assets for this thing that didn't work out? And if you have the Celtics go ahead and it doesn't work out for them when you trade for KD, you're going to have Celtics fans asking the same thing. Then there's also the possibility, what if KD just leaves again? Because we saw him with Kyrie and James Harden. Obviously, James Harden got traded this past trade deadline, which changed things a little bit. But KD, there were the rumors before this season was that he wanted to stay in Brooklyn for the rest of his career. He just signed a 4-year extension, and now he's asking for a trade. So, who's to say a couple years down the line, KD's not like, I kind of miss the warm weather. Maybe I want to go to Cali, live, down in Miami or something like that. I want to trade again. What if he does that? Because with Kevin Durant, who really knows? That is 100% a possibility. Now, with the Celtics team, they're going to be a contender as long as Kevin Durant stays at the level that he is. So I would say that there's probably a lesser chance that he leaves because you are a contender, where the Nets seems kind of like it's a sinking ship with Kyrie. Maybe he plays, maybe he doesn't. He kind of wants out. Maybe he gets traded to LA. Either way, he only has 1 year left on his contract. Ben Simmons has been dealing with some injury issues. You lost James Harden. So, that's more of a sinking ship situation. So I think it's unlikely, but it is a possibility that he goes ahead and asks out of Boston too. So with all that being said, should the Celtics trade for Kevin Durant? I don't know. I really don't know. And I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but I have thought about this for the past 4, 5, 6 days whenever the report came out, and I really don't know. To me, it kind of feels like a lot to give up Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart. I think I would run it back. I think I would go ahead and pass on a Kevin Durant trade if I was the Boston Celtics, and that's the package I would have to give up. I think just keeping those two guys. Now, this is assuming Jaylen Brown isn't like, now I want to leave, of course. If that is the situation, which the front office would know and I wouldn't, then you go ahead and make the move. But I think overall, I think it makes sense to keep this thing together. You just went to the finals. You added some really solid pieces in Gallo, Malcolm Brogdon. Maybe if you have what you did in the second half of the season a whole year now, you could go out and win over 60 games, make the NBA finals again, and who knows? Maybe this time guys are healthy, shots are going down, and next thing you know, you're 2023 NBA champions. So I'd keep it together. Those are my thoughts on this whole situation. Let me know in the comment section below if you were the Celtics. Would you trade for Kevin Durant if it was the package that the Nets asked for? Why wouldn't you? Whatever. Let me know all that in the comment section below. I appreciate y'all watching. I will see you all later. Real one, say it back.